All right. I am Jeff Demansky. I'm the Executive Director of the Hudson Valley Energy Program. I am the nonprofit partner in Hudson Valley Community Power, which is a partnership which includes the town of Marbletown and 9 other communities here in Central Hudson Territory, including Beacon, where I live. And all of those communities chose Dual Assets to be the administrator of these community energy programs. And we're going to talk tonight about the new offering that's coming to Marbletown, which is a little different than something people have heard about. And I'll definitely talk about what is in Marbletown already and what the new offering is all about. But you guys have already heard me talk about the Zoom etiquette, so I'm just going to move on to the next slide. And so we are here tonight because there is a new program that the town's doing. It's expanding its offerings through this partnership, through Hudson Valley Community Power. And this is, again, the reason I'm here and the reason we're here as a partnership is to promote more renewable power use in the Hudson Valley. Again, folks, I'm going to mute someone who's not muted, but just keep yourself muted for the time being, if you could, just for no background. All right. So we are introducing something that the team is calling Community Choice Solar. And I know it's getting confusing because a lot of our programs have the word community and choice in them. But we're going to explain what Community Choice Solar is. And in brief, and I'll definitely be redundant tonight, but in brief, Community Choice Solar is where through this program that Marbletown enabled back in 2019, we can automatically offer the benefits of community solar to eligible residents and small businesses, to those folks who have not already done so. All right, so I'll be really redundant tonight, but I'll say now that Marbletown has been a wonderful partner in doing outreach to its community members for the benefit that these programs offer, but it encouraged folks to take advantage of an electricity supply program, which is about what you pay for in terms of how your power is made every month by New York State Resources in this program. It's also done outreach for a community solar to encourage people to opt in to community solar, to sign up with a contract for community solar, which is a wonderful opportunity that I'll explain in more detail. But this Community Choice Solar, this program that is likely coming to fruition late this year or potentially early next year, is this ability to automatically offer the benefits of community solar to eligible residents and small businesses who are not already taking advantage of it or who don't have solar already on their home or business. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about what is community choice broadly, and that there are 2 community choice offerings that will be the new 2 versions of what's available through this partnership program. And we'll talk about the timeline for the offer of these renewable resources to Marbletown community members. And we'll emphasize, of course, what the benefits are of community choice. And then getting into the nitty-gritty, we'll talk about how does this change my utility bill? How will it look different on your utility bill, which is the one and only bill that folks will have through these programs if they take advantage of both of them, or one or the other. Everything is done through the Central Hudson bill. So I'll preview by saying that. We'll talk about who's automatically included and who's not. And then the next steps. I'll cover some frequently asked questions, and then I'll leave time for questions to be asked. So we'll definitely do that. So the broad picture, what is community choice? And it's been known by the formal state policy name of community choice aggregation, or what the team is calling community choice generally, or CCA, the acronym. And this is something that Marbletown enabled back and launched in 2019. And it's really just a policy that allows the town to do something. And what it allows the town to do, it enables the town to determine the default energy offering, including electricity supply and community solar, on behalf of residents and small businesses in the community. So I'll talk in detail what those 2 things are and how they differ. But it's for electricity supply, which is what you pay for each month based on how much energy you use. And also this way that you can support local projects through something called community solar, which is not your supply. It's not tied to how much electricity you use each month. So stepping into details about that sentence I just said, that's on the left, and now I've highlighted. I'm going to talk just more detail about the different components of that sentence describing what community choice is. We've highlighted that it's a policy enabling municipalities. So this is for New York cities, towns, and villages. It's allowed under general municipal law. So cities and towns and villages that want to do this have to pass a local law. And if and when they proceed with the program, the process of exploring it, and if and when they launch it, it's regulated by the New York State Public Service Commission. So it's a program overseen by the State Public Service Commission, but it's enabled by a local law. You know, this is very much about local decision making. So when we talk about the second part, to determine default energy offerings, what we're talking about is a change in a situation. Before this program was enabled in Marbletown, Central Hudson and New York State determined your default energy offerings. This is something that's been in place since the late 1990s when the energy markets were deregulated, wherein there is a supply marketplace where every utility customer could go and enter into a contract for supply, like with Green Mountain Energy or Ambit or Viridian. They could enter into a contract to mandate how much their electricity costs and or where it's made and how it's made. This program, the first aspect of it for electricity supply, is something where the decision can be made by the town, as well as allowing it to be a decision to be made around whether people are part of a community solar project. So it allows local decision-making over the default energy offerings, changing it from a state decision and a Central Hudson decision to a local decision, what the partnership has to collectively offer it as a new choice, which can be rejected at any time, but it's a new choice and it is a new default choice. So the last bullet, everyone is eligible, who's eligible receives the default offerings unless they choose not to participate and opt out. So that's just what I was saying. It is a new default unless they take action, but they can. Anybody can say no to this program and go back to that first bullet, where the state and Central Hudson decision takes precedent for them. It's worth saying here, because I'm not sure if I say it sufficiently on the following slides, that these programs do not in any way impact Central Hudson's relationship with all of their customers right now. Since deregulation went into effect, Central Hudson is only allowed to make money as a delivery company. They don't make the power. They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to make money on the supply decision. They're only allowed to make money on the delivery of energy to their customers. And I'll point that out again when we see a sample Central Hudson bill on an upcoming slide. All right, so what are we talking about? If you look to the left, including electricity supply and community choice. So there's two offerings. Community choice electricity supply is where, as I've said a number of times, you can indicate how and where your power is made. And this is directly tied to how much electricity you use each month. That's the first offering. The second offering, community choice solar, which is the main focus of what's about to change, this new program we're about to talk about, is where customers who sign up to be a virtual owner of a portion of a field of solar, by becoming a subscriber and helping that developer get the subscribers they need to be a community solar or community hydro project, the customer in return receives guaranteed savings in the form of solar bill credits on their Central Hudson bill for supporting that renewable generation project. So it's a way to enable a local project to happen. For our first program, the first offering, the community choice electricity supply, we just, with Marbletown and the other 9 communities, just launched into a new 3-year contract wherein the supply rate is fixed. It will not change for customers who participate in the program. And the 2 default offerings are shown here. There's a different rate for residential customers versus small commercial customers. But for the residential customers, for example, the rate will be always for the next 36 months through June of 2024, 6.573 cents per kilowatt hour. So about 6.5 cents per kilowatt hour, meaning if you used 200 kilowatt hours of electricity that month based on your meter, what your meter shows, that gets multiplied by this rate every single month to determine what your supply charges are. If you're a commercial customer, it's just over 7 cents. There is another option, it's a standard rate, but the default choice for all of our communities is this 100% renewable rate. This fixed rate is a rate for 100% New York-based renewable power. To date, it's been hydropower. We would also allow, there are projects coming on that are solar power projects and wind power projects. Those are the 3 types of projects that we would allow through this program. So that means that if you stay in the program and you have this fixed rate, your supply dollars passed through by Central Hudson go to only renewable production sources in New York State. It's a way, the benefit of this is that the chart on the left shows it's a way to have certainty over what your supply rate is going to be. The dotted line represents what happens with Central Hudson making your supply decision. The rate can vary and it does vary every month. It can go up and down. There will be months when the Central Hudson rate is lower than our program rate, which happily is not now. Currently, our program rate is, in the last 2 months, has been higher, is lower than Central Hudson's rate. So our program is showing the benefits of what this program is about. Community Choice Solar, there'll be more details that will be available when the program launches late this year, early 2022, in terms of knowing how much the discount will be, but it is a guaranteed discount. So we'll get into this a little bit further. So the last part is, who are the small businesses and residents that we're talking about? Who are the eligible customers? Who's automatically included? It differs by the community choice offerings, but for both of them, anybody can opt out. There's no fee or penalty. There's no funny charges associated with this program. This is a program overseen by the state, and it's being offered by the town because it is a public benefit, because it's transparent and simple. There's no fees to opt in or opt out, and it's all just what we've talked about. Everything included in a fixed rate for the supply, and a guaranteed savings if you take advantage of the community solar, if you're not already doing so. So the timeline. So the first part is opt-in community solar. There has been discussion about encouraging people to subscribe to community solar projects in Marbletown. From 2019 to 2021, the town, in partnership with Hudson Valley Community Power, released letters and other communications to encourage people to sign up for individual contracts, the second bullet at the top there, to take advantage of community solar. Over 220 Marbletown residents did this in that time period. They are saving a targeted 10% off of their tire electric charges by doing so. They have 2 separate bills. They get the credit for doing so, that 10% targeted savings on their Central Hudson bill, but they paid always 90% of that savings to through a second bill to the solar provider, the owner of that solar field. Their end result is always a positive. They always save money, the 10% targeted savings. So that was the opt-in community solar program that folks have very likely heard about in Marbletown. It's going to be different when we're talking about the last part down at the bottom, community choice solar, which is an opt-out program like what it's been for electricity supply in the middle. Since also 2019, July 1st of 2019, Marbletown, with 9 other communities in the Hudson Valley, started this fixed rate for electricity supply program that is 100% renewable fixed rates with no contract, all done through the one Central Hudson bill. And again, people could opt out at any time. And it was a fixed rate for that 2-year period, July 2019 through June of 2021. And we just relaunched into a new version, which we showed the rates on the previous slide. Now, community choice solar, the last part, this is what's coming. This is what we're here to talk about. It's coming in late this year or early 2022. It does not require any of the steps for opt-in community solar. There's no individual contract. There's no credit check. There's not a second bill. This is done by one bill, the Central Hudson bill. And that's why we can now do it, is because Central Hudson this year complied with the state requirement for serving as a pass-through for community solar. So that's why we can now do this program with Marbletown and other communities. One bill, just the Central Hudson bill. And just like the other programs, the electricity supply, anybody could opt out at any time. So what are the benefits? The benefits of the electricity supply program, the fixed rate, it's a buying club in essence, enabled by the towns. With the power of numbers of the community members that participate, you get a competitive rate for renewable power that's much better than people could get on their own. And very likely, as it has been these last 2 months, it could be better than what people are paying for non-renewable power if Central Hudson made their decision. But regardless, with that fixed rate, that flat line, every single month, it's the same rate, it reduces price volatility through the fixed rate contracts. Separate and different, a different financial transaction, a different way to support renewables. Community Choice Solar is guaranteed savings by subscribing to a local solar project, a project that's right here in Central Hudson territory. The electricity supply program, if you remember me saying, it's a New York State-based source. So you're supporting renewables in New York State, directly tied to how much electricity you use each month. Compared to Community Choice Solar, which is more of a local choice. It supports a local project. And there is an asterisk on there that you can, now with these programs, you can do neither of these programs. You can opt out of both, and just generally anybody. You could do one or the other. You could do opt-in community solar in the past. When this program launches, you could do opt-out community solar and not do the electricity supply program, or vice versa. Because if you remember that graph I showed on the electricity supply graph, that very simple graph with a jagged line and the fixed rate for our program, the reason that there's an asterisk saying that if you participate in both, you can't guarantee the savings, it's because there can be months when the Central Hudson rate is lower than our program rate. And there's no saying that it may not be that way for an extended period, such that the difference in what you would have saved through going with Central Hudson's choice could potentially be larger than the savings from Community Choice Solar. It could more than cancel out the benefit, but it's not likely because the savings is so significant from Community Choice Solar, but it is a possibility, so we do need to point that out. So generally, the benefits of this program, Community Choice Solar, it is for both of them, one bill, electricity supply and solar credits on the one Central Hudson bill. There are numerous consumer protections baked into this, where the team, the partnership, negotiated the terms of the contract that exists at the municipal level, not for individuals. So there's no individual contract, so people have complete flexibility and they're not locked into anything. So that's the benefit to the individual customers. The community, it gets to advance its sustainability goals, and it's supporting a town sustainability project through a benefit that goes back to the town for participants in the Community Choice Solar program. So there's numerous benefits. So this is the promised slide showing the bill, what the bill looks like. Community Choice electricity supply, again, remember it's tied to your usage, your kilowatt hours. This is a sample bill right from Central Hudson. And you notice on this column, this customer, this anonymous customer, used 282 kilowatt hours of electricity this month. I guess this is time. Ignore the green box for right now. That 282 kilowatt hours is multiplied by numerous line items in the delivery charges section for total delivery charges. All of this section up here that I'm circling above the red circle down here, energy delivery charges, this is the section by which Central Hudson makes money. Remember, they're a delivery company. They're not allowed to make money on the supply decision. If Central Hudson makes your supply decision, if they enter into contracts monthly for customers they're making the choice for, there's 3 line items, all with the same amount of electricity use multiplied by this market charge, an MFC supply charge, and a market adjustment rate to come up with total supply charges. The delivery charges and the supply charges are added up for total electricity cost. For those in the community choice electricity supply program, there's only one line item here. This bill is not showing what it's like to be in the program. There is only one line item with the fixed rate multiplied by the electricity usage. That is for the electricity supply portion of the program. Underneath that, separate from electricity usage line items, there is the place where the benefit for community choice solar lives. And it's a little blurry, but you can see at the bottom, this community distributed generation credit, this negative, that is a reduction for somebody who's a subscriber to a community choice solar project, whether it's through an opt-in or an opt-out program. The red boxes here, B and C, this is detailed that we'll talk about. If you are a community solar subscriber, there will be information about the company with which you are subscribed in this section here, above this one single deduction that will be shown for the bill, on your bill for being in the program. So emphasizing again that it does not impact Central Hudson's money-making operation, the delivery. That supply lives here. This is the fixed rate, where the fixed rate will live on your bill. If you're in the program, it is where your fixed rate is located, which is separate from where community solar lives as a deduction down here in the payments and adjustments section underneath this description of the provider. So that's how it's a difference in the way it is logistically done through the program. So now who's in it? And remember that we're going to talk about who's included or who's not included. It's everybody's choice. But who's included? It is a matter of, for the electricity supply, somebody for whom Central Hudson is making the choice. So somebody who does not have a third-party contractor ready for supply in that private marketplace. Somebody who does not have a block on their account with Central Hudson, and somebody who's not participating in the Home Energy Assistance Program, the Utility Assistance Payment Program. For Community Choice Solar, you will be included when the program launches if you do not have your own solar system on your rooftop or on your business, on your home or business, and you do not participate already in a community solar project. If you do, you're not affected. You just wouldn't be included in the opt-out program. So that's who's automatically included. You will only be automatically included if you live in the participating municipality. And again, as I said, you do not have a block on your utility account. So that's the breakdown of who's automatically included and who's not. So what happens next? This session tonight is part of the community education, which is just beginning. So we're going to continue this phase of community education. After we complete this, which is going to run for more than 2 months, we're going to have bids for the supply of community choice solar, for the amount of solar subscriptions that are available. Then there'll be a second round of education where we have the details. We'll be able to say exactly how much of a percentage savings everyone who's included will get, where the projects are located, and who the project owners are, who the developers are. So that's after this big 60 days minimum of education outreach that we're doing. And then after a bid is issued where we have the details. And then all of those details will be mailed to all eligible residents and small businesses, which include that information, the savings, the project location, the developers. There will be 2 pages of frequently asked questions. And there will be information about how you can opt out if you do not want to participate. That letter kicks off a 30-day period of opt-outs where people can, if they don't ever want to be part of this, if they just want to leave things as they are, including with reference to their subscription to a community solar project, if they're not in one, if they don't ever want to be included, they can opt out in a 30-day period, after which they would be included. But if they didn't want to be part of it after that, at any time they can opt out. So anybody could opt out at any time or opt back in too. So that's the gist of the presentation, but just as sort of a review, the frequently asked questions, I got a few pages of these, but we'll go through them pretty quick, but it's pretty much a review. So the common questions that we get, the first one, who is not eligible for community choice electricity supply? This is like a quiz. 3 categories generally. If you're in the community, but if you have a third-party supplier, you're not included. If you have a block on your account, you're not included. Or if you have if you're participating in the Home Energy Assistance Program, the subsidized payment program, you're not included in community choice electricity supply. So who is not eligible for community choice solar? If someone has a community choice, if somebody has a community solar subscription already, they're not eligible. Or if they have solar on their home or a business, they're not included, at that meter. If they have it on their home and they have a business and the business doesn't, the business could be included if it's in the same community. So if I'm eligible for both offerings, what if I only want to participate in one of them? That is totally okay. You can just opt out of one and not the other. What are my options if I don't want to participate in the community choice program? There's numerous ways. We make it easy, and that's really where my nonprofit comes in. My team is behind the opting out methods. There is a prepaid envelope that goes out with the letter and an opt-out reply card that can just be signed, stuck in the envelope, and mailed. And that goes to opt you out of the program. There's also a phone number that you could call, the helpline. And my team gets those calls. We'll take the information from your letter and we can opt you out of the program. There's also a website with an enrollment change form where you can opt out at any time, including during the opt-out period, that you can do it yourself using the web form. Or you could, in the good old days and maybe the coming future, you could see us in person and do it that way as well. But there's any one of those methods is sufficient to opt out of the program. Another, will my enrollment impact the reliability of my electricity? Do these renewable energy programs, whether it be electricity supply or community choice solar, do they have any impact on the reliability of electricity? No. The New York State electricity grid, which includes the connections to all different types of production sources, is overseen by the state, by the New York Independent System Operator, and they ensure reliable power. They only allow projects on in an order in terms of the way the grid is set up, with the #1 goal of reliability of delivery of electricity to their customers. And the role that Central Hudson plays in terms of storm damage, should there be storm disruption, they still do that repair work. That's part of delivery services. So there would be no change in terms of the reliability of electricity with these programs, should somebody participate in both or one or the other programs. Can I opt in if I already have a third-party supplier? For community solar, yes, but you would have to, for community choice supply, you'd have to opt out of that third-party supply arrangement to take advantage of the electricity supply program, but it would have no impact on your ability to take advantage of the community choice solar program. Can I opt in if I'm already enrolled in another community solar farm? This is redundant, but the answer to this is no. If you have a subscription to another community solar farm, you can't do two, just one. So you can't opt in. Can I opt in if I already have solar on my home or small business? Again, just repeating, being redundant. No, you cannot do community solar if you have solar on your home or business for that home or business meter. If you have a subscription for one or the other could take advantage of the program. Last slide. Why is my municipality offering this program? It's because a number of reasons, actually. There are real benefits out there in the energy marketplace, and the energy marketplace is evolving. Folks probably on the call and others know that we need to change the grid. We need to have more renewables on the grid as we transition to predominantly renewable production on the grid. There are cost savings opportunities that go with this based on the existing marketplace. And the state recognized that there's been bad actors and it can be very confusing. So in a nutshell, the municipality is doing this because there are benefits to be had in a way that can protect customers by offering a simple program with no commitment requirements. So it's truly offered as a public benefit to the community members and the communities that are doing this. Will I get two bills? For the programs we're talking about, for new subscribers to the community choice solar and the opt-out model and the electricity supply, no, it's one bill. What is the difference between opting out during the opt-out period, that 30 days after the letter arrives, or opting out after the opt-out period? It would just be a matter of being included in the program and needing to be rolled out of it, which can take 2 billing cycles conservatively to do that, to roll out of it. And if it's community solar, it could be 3 billing cycles, but it does typically happen pretty quickly. But we need to say conservatively. It could take a number of billing cycles just to roll out of it, but you will be rolled out of the programs, one or the other, or both. What if I participate now, but change my mind later and want to opt out? That's absolutely fine. That's what this program is structured to do, to make it easy for folks to take advantage of this or to say no to it at any time if they want to. And so that is the presentation, about 30 minutes as I promised. So now, folks, if you have questions, I don't see anything in the chat window. You can still feel free to use that, but feel free to unmute. I know my 2 participants tonight. Are there any other questions that you folks have? I have 2 kids, so I'm really good with awkward silence too. I'll just wait here in case you guys have questions. I'll keep an eye on the chat window too. I'm going to ask you guys to unmute if you want to unmute and ask questions. This is the time to feel free to ask questions. All right, I'll stay here for a little bit in case anyone has questions. I've reserved 1.5 hours for tonight's presentation, so I'm happy to stay here. But if you have no other questions, that is the gist of our presentation. You can feel free to enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much for coming.